Hello everyone, and welcome back to NovaLogos Audio English. In our last chapter, we followed the dramatic life of David, the shepherd king who was after God's own heart. Today, the crown passes to his son. We enter an era of unprecedented peace, golden palaces, and profound philosophy. We meet the King of Wisdom, Solomon. Imagine being a young man suddenly placed on the throne of a rising empire. The expectations are immense, and the shadows of your father's greatness are long. What would you ask for if God told you, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you"? Would you choose power, revenge, or endless gold? Solomon's choice changed the course of history and set a new standard for what it means to be truly rich. Today, we explore how a request for an understanding heart built a magnificent temple, and why even the wisest man on earth still needed to guard his steps. Section 1. The Request for Discernment. Solomon's reign began with a dream. At Gibeon, God appeared to him and offered him a blank check. In the first book of Kings, chapter 3, verse 9, we find the humblest request ever made by a monarch. "Give your servant, therefore, a listening heart to judge your people and to distinguish between good and evil." Solomon didn't ask for the life of his enemies or for great wealth. He acknowledged he was like a little child who didn't know how to lead. God was so pleased with this unselfish request that he gave Solomon not only the wisdom he asked for, but also the riches and glory he didn't seek. This is the Solomonic principle. When we prioritize the things of God, the other things often follow. Reflection. If you had one prayer today that God promised to answer, what would it be? Solomon teaches us that the greatest asset we can possess is discernment, the ability to see life through God's eyes. Wisdom is not just knowing facts. It is having a heart that listens to the truth before making a decision. Section 2. The Shadow, the Trap of Prosperity. Success can be a more dangerous test than failure. Solomon's shadow was the very abundance he received. As his kingdom grew, so did his reliance on political alliances and foreign influences. From the first book of Kings, chapter 11, verse 4, we see the heartbreaking turn. When Solomon was old, his wives had turned his heart to strange gods, and his heart was not entirely with the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. This is the shadow of the Passus, divided heart. Solomon had the wisdom to solve everyone else's problems, but he struggled to apply that wisdom to his own desires. He built a glorious temple for God, yet he allowed other altars to be built in his kingdom. It is a sobering reminder that knowledge without devotion is a hollow shell. Mirroring our lives. We often think that if we just had more money, more influence, more intelligence, life would be easier. But Solomon shows us that prosperity requires even greater vigilance. Are there strange gods or distractions in your life that are slowly turning your heart away from your first love? Wisdom must be renewed every day. It is not a trophy you win once and keep forever. Section 3. The Light, the Dwelling of the Glory. The greatest light of Solomon's era was the completion of the temple in Jerusalem. It was a masterpiece of cedar, gold, and stone, but its true beauty was the presence of God. In the first book of Kings, chapter 8, verse 11, we witness the climax of his work. The cloud filled the house of the Lord, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. Solomon recognized that even this magnificent building could not contain the Creator. The light of his legacy is found in his dedication prayer, where he asked God to hear the prayers of anyone, even foreigners, who turned toward that temple. Solomon's light represents the peak of Israel's spiritual influence, a time when nations traveled from afar, like the Queen of Sheba, just to hear the wisdom given by God. The light of presence. The purpose of our work, our talents, and our resources should ultimately be to create a dwelling place for God's glory in our world. Solomon's light teaches us that the most beautiful thing we can build is a life where others can encounter the wisdom and presence of the divine. Section 4. Bridge to the Present. Seeking True Wisdom. How can we apply Solomon's journey to our complicated modern lives? 1. Ask for a listening heart. Before you start your workday or enter a difficult conversation, ask for the ability to discern what is right. 2. Beware of compromise. Small steps away from your values can lead to a divided heart. Stay entirely with the Lord. 3. Build for a higher purpose. Whatever you are building, a career, a family, or a project, make sure there is room in it for God's glory. Section 5. Language Clinic. Expressing requests and results. To help you describe your goals and the outcomes of your choices, let's look at these English patterns. 1. Distinguish between and. This is a formal way to describe discernment or critical thinking. To distinguish between option A and option B. Example: a leader must distinguish between a temporary trend and a lasting truth. Spiritual use. It's the ability to tell the difference between what is merely good and what is God's best. 2. A heart not entirely with. This phrase describes partial commitment or a lack of focus. One's heart is not entirely with someone/something. Example: he took the job, but his heart was not entirely with the company's mission. Spiritual use. It warns against spiritual lukewarmness, having one foot in faith and one foot in the world. 3. Ask for whatever you want me to give you. This represents an open-ended offer or a moment of great opportunity. Example: my mentor told me to ask for whatever I needed to succeed. Spiritual use. It reflects God's generosity, but it also tests the true priorities of our souls. What we ask for reveals what we love most. Consolidation and review. Key phrases for your journey. 1. Give your servant a listening heart. This is the quintessential prayer for wisdom. It defines wisdom not as intellectual superiority, but as a humble receptivity to divine guidance in practical life. 2. The glory of the Lord filled the house. This phrase signifies the successful alignment of human effort with divine purpose. It describes the moment when our work becomes a vessel for a power greater than ourselves. 3. Distinguish between good and evil. This represents the highest form of human maturity. It is the spiritual vision that allows us to navigate a complex world without losing our moral compass. 4. His heart was not entirely with the Lord. This serves as a vital warning about the dangers of drifting. It suggests that even the most gifted person can lose their way if they stop being vigilant about their inner life. 5. Heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. This highlights the balance between God's nearness and His transcendence. It reminds us that while we build structures for faith, the Creator is always greater than our definitions. 6. I am a little child. This expression of radical humility is the prerequisite for great leadership. It teaches that acknowledging our limitations is the first step toward receiving infinite wisdom. Closing. The House of Wisdom. Thank you for joining us for Chapter 12. Solomon teaches us that while wisdom can build a kingdom, only a listening heart can sustain a soul. Don't be dazzled by the gold in your life. Stay focused on the glory. In Chapter 13, we will meet Elijah, the prophet of fire. We will move from the golden age of Solomon to a time of drought and spiritual conflict. We will see how one man's courage challenged an entire empire and how God speaks in the softest whisper. If the story of Solomon and his search for wisdom has inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to NovaLogos Audio English. Your support helps us share these portraits of faith with the world. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next prophet. Until we meet again, keep a listening heart. Goodbye.